Okay, I am recording.
Okay, here we are at the Audiophiles podcast subdivision on Remembering Truth. And here with Michael A., my co host, we're about to discuss one of the most legendary bands in all of metal, probably the godfather of many genre of metal, and kind of the OG for, pop oriented metal, I think, just on planet Earth. Judas Priest, the one and only. The one and only Judas Priest, everyone. So far and above from so many other bands are they in their like stature that it's hard for me to even qualify them as like a as like an entity or to even like group them in with any other act, music touring act, because they really stand alone as just the preeminent metal band of kind of the last 40 years, plus a little extra for what 45 years or so,
Yeah,
and
50.
50 years, almost 50 years.
No, yeah, no,
And
literally 50 years
we just did
since.
the Iron Maiden one, right? And I was trying to compare the two in my head while listening, and I was kind of like,
You can't really. I feel like they are very
they're
different,
not that
very
similar.
different.
They have a lot. They both became famous around the same time, or defined an era of metal. They're kind of
I
they
feel
shared
like
power
as
in the
their
metal space.
sounds as they grew, as both
Sounds are
bands grew
different
older, their
enough.
sounds diverged even further from each other. Iron Maiden grew
Well,
more
I
infatuated
actually
with
think of
prog.
I think of Iron Maiden as sort of extroverted, and I view Priest as sort of introverted. Like they kind of the 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 night and day of metal for that British new wave of heavy metal.
Very
Like
much. And well, I
they're
do
kind of like
think,
they're very much in rap with each other, but their sounds are so different.
yeah.
It's like opposites. And I was so happy to do this Priest one because I didn't get really a chance to deep dive into their catalog for a while, and now I'm like I learned so much about their material and I'm like really impressed by their consistency. And I think they might even be more consistent than Iron Maiden. Um, Although that remains to be determined. So, Michael,
Before
if you
we
want
do
to
get
start out
started,
with the albums,
I will beg to differ with the
uh,
Iron Maiden consistency thing, at least in my opinion,
okay,
as
yeah, no,
we will
we'll get
see.
into it. We'll
We're
get
about
into
to
it. I'm
find
sure you
out.
will. I'm sure, yeah. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into the very first album, and uh, the mic's yours. The show is yours right now.
Rock'n'Rolla.
Rock and roll. Oh yeah, yeah. So the '70s album, Rock'n'Rolla is a weird kind of like it's a strange start for them. I think it's stranger than the first Iron Maiden album, um, and it's kind of good, but it just doesn't really define them very well, and it kind of seems like it almost could be a different band. It's very like it's like a prototype for their sound. It's not really definitive. Where do you rank it from
So,
from A to F or whatever?
honestly, I'm really not a fan of this album. I know it's their start, and I feel like besides like Iron Maiden and certain other bands, like I do tend to be kind of hard on and Black Sabbath, of course. I do tend to be hard on the debut album, but this, like, even with the benefit of hindsight, and even with the benefit of, oh, it's just a debut, like I just can't get behind this one much at all. It I will say it sounds like its cover in the way that, I mean, it sounds like its cover, um like a rusty old bottle cap. uh at least it sounds like a little bit like they're trying to do a little bit of like a Deep Purple type thing, but it's not really working out. It feels very like flat
Deep
soda.
Purple is a good, yeah, good. I think UFO might be even
Yeah,
more
UFO
what they're
even closer, which that's funny you say UFO, because that may or may not be our
but
next one.
UFO. I think it should be the next one because UFO came up around the same time as Priest, and actually it didn't last as long. But UFO was kind of like before Iron Maiden was around. UFO was the main sort of co
Yeah, they're one of Iron Maiden's
emperor
inspirations.
of
Iron
metal.
Maiden's covered them multiple times.
The kings and queen, I mean the king and queen of metal, right, was Priest and UFO, and then kind of Iron Maiden's replaced UFO,
Yeah, then Black
right,
Sabbath's
in the
that
80s.
like uh Black Sabbath's like that Godfather. You know,
So all right,
blending the
so
band's
we got this one
mustaches into
down.
one.
Where would you rank it? Because I would give it
Honestly,
like a C,
I think
a
a
C.
D.
D. Oh,
I
okay, all
really
right.
don't like this album, but but on the other hand, I do understand that it is their debut. They're
It's
still
not
trying to find a
entertaining. It's not.
sound.
It's got a little bit of like grit to it. It's a little bit muscular. It's a fun album, but it's not exciting. It's not like great. It's just sort of a whatever album. So I guess D or a low C for me. Yeah, I do C minus if you can place it there.
C. I could put it on the very bottom of C when we finish the whole tier list. You know, when we have more things on this thing. uh, but then we got a completely different album up next. Um, Many see this as the real debut. Hello, hello.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. The next. What's the next album?
Sad Wings of Destiny.
So this album, from what I recall, was not like amazing, but it has some really banging, like head banging tracks on it. Like uh, what's the one? What's the name of that one where it's the longer one that is like one of their
Victim of the
first hits.
Changes.
Victim of Changes. That one's really good, really kind of dark and sort of misogynistic and bluesy and like kind of wild and just got moving parts everywhere. Really brilliant, like rock composition. Victim of Changes. But I can't, for the life of me, remember a track on that album that was like better than that or like even almost as good. I think that's the best track on that album by far.
I
And
think
you, but you can't rank an album just off one song. You have to kind of like see it in context. So I think the album by itself is not that high, but like that song brings it up a lot.
I have gone back to this album a lot since I thought going back to it, it was going to be another Crusader thing with Saxon, where that and like the first like three songs on that album carried it, but the rest of it kind of was just not really worth much time. I thought this album was going to be like that, where Victim of Change is just better than everything else, and everything else just sort of just goes and disappears. Um, but truth be told, I found myself liking this album a lot more than I used to. There's this closing track on here called Island of Domination that is, oh, it's so good. It's bluesy. I will say this is probably the bluesiest Judas Priest album on the whole. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think The
and I
Ripper and
like that.
Dreamer Deceiver
Yeah,
help
Streamer
this album
Deceiver.
a lot.
And
I'm
then
a pretty big. I'm not like a fan of The Ripper, but I enjoy hearing
it's
it.
cool.
It's an intriguing song. Uh, it's a kind of cool track.
It's I
So
think it's
I would
important
say this
for
album is
their
at least.
future, but it's not their best. I don't think.
No, I mean it's this. They're kind of doing a little bit of a of I don't know what, like they're kind of doing a Zeppelin sort of
Almost like
Sabbath thing
Zeppelin
still.
meets Queen's second album kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely Queen. Yeah, a lot of Queen with Judas
Yeah, this
Priest,
this
and
album is very Queen. It's like Queen meets the blues a little bit,
yeah, kind of,
and I,
kind of
I
right.
like
Yeah,
that a lot about this album. It's very
that's a good way to
unique,
put it.
but at the
It's a
same
cool.
time,
Yeah, I
it
like that one.
actually feels like a real debut, as opposed to Rock and Rolla, which just kind of sounds like bar band Deep Purple. Which great that I'm not crapping on Deep Purple, but it's a bar band Deep Purple. So where would you put this?
Yeah, so I would give it like a B. I
I
don't think it's like.
I'm not gonna give
I
it an
mean, yeah,
S, but I think an A is worth it.
an A.
Yeah,
Um, I
but
can't give it an A. I can't give it an A because an A for me is an album where it's like The Ripper and Dreamer Deceiver are kind of mid.
I like
And
Dream
if
Receiver.
one of those
Ripper, I
two
agree,
songs was
but
like one of those two songs was like one of their best songs ever, like their top 10. Because Victim of the Changes is like one of their top 10 songs. I don't
oh, I
think Ripper
agree.
and Dreamer Deceiver are. I think they're like top 20,
I
you know,
think
so
what drags it down a
top
little bit
40.
for me is there are a few songs with second side. I mean, Genocide and Tyrant are really good on the second side, but I'm just not that big of a
Yeah,
fan of the
yeah.
Ripper, or that's on the first side. I know. And Epitaph is just straight up bad. I think it's very weird, piano driven, very Queenish ballad, and it comes off as very like 70s dick cheese. If that's not my term, my dad used that term once to describe the song.
For what song?
Epitaph. It's a song towards the end of Sad Wings that is very piano driven, and Rob Halford has this sort of like ooh voice. He sounds older in that on that song than he does now.
Well, I just don't. I'm not. I was never like impressed by this album. Like, I mean, I think the song "Victim of Changes" is amazing, and then everything else is kind of just like way less good. So, you know, I mean,
Hmm. I could give it a low A or a high B.
low A, yeah, let's do high B.
High B.
I'll
We
do,
will come
I'll do
back
a high
to.
B.
We'll know when it's a
It's a
high B when
worthwhile.
we.
It's a worthwhile album, but like not spectacular.
And now we got Sin After Sin.
Uh, okay. Oh, by the way, it's the some trivia for you. The song from Sad Wings of Dynasty called "Genocide." That's where the phrase "sin after sin" was borrowed for this album.
Yeah.
So, "sin after sin." You said when we did this podcast before. I mean, we tried to do the same episode,
Yeah.
and we had technical difficulties.
Don't even get
But
me started.
you said sin after sin was like one of your favorites.
Yes.
It made me revisit. You basically forced me to revisit it, and I think it is better than Sad Wings of Destiny. I'll give you that. I think it's a better album than Sad Wings of Destiny.
I think this is
So
where
for me, it's like an
Priest.
A.
Like, this is Priest's first out and out metal album, I think. And at this,
Well,
granted.
the song Starbreaker, I'm not crazy about. Diamonds and Rust is awesome. Sinner is
Yeah.
awesome. Last Rose of Summer, I kind of like. It's a guilty pleasure.
Here Come the
And then
Tears
the
is an
side two,
excellent ending.
side two, I'm not like wild about, but side
I
two's okay.
I really like Raw Deal a lot. It's got a bit of the bluesiness of Sad Wings. Dissident Aggressor is so good. Oh, there's so much about this album. This is one of my absolute favorite
I
Prince
never
albums.
loved that song, but it's not bad. Like it's not the worst song you could have on an album.
I think it's a
Uh,
good ending to the album. My favorite song on
yeah,
here is
it's a
probably
reasonably good ending. Yeah.
my favorite song on here is probably the Diamonds and Rust cover uh or Raw Deal. But oh, actually, come to think of it, I found out recently about this album, and actually, there's a few very interesting things about it. This is the first one on CBS Records, which is the first major label. The last two were on a label called Gull, which they were in a very toxic relationship with. Like they were basically broke after every album. They weren't getting their proper dues. They were
Oh,
basically
you're talking about
homeless.
Bob Dylan and Joan Baez?
Oh no, I'm talking about Priest and their
Oh.
last record label, Gull. But now they're on CBS
Oh, okay.
Records.
I had no idea. I mean, I know Roger Glover produced this one, which is
Yeah,
kind of
Roger
a
Glover.
credit to
It's
it.
funny that we were
And
talking about
then
Purple.
they got a new this is the only album with Simon Phillips on drums.
Yep, a great
Kind
drummer, but
of
he was only on for
kind of
session.
remarkable. I think that's probably why this album sort of stands alone. Like it doesn't really have like a great cohesion with its neighboring albums, and it's just because that drummer is like the only guy.
It has a bit. This album is the
Um,
most raw, I think. Like it's the most rough and
it's
tumble sounding
Oh yeah,
of the '70s Priest
kind
albums.
of it's kind of an enigma. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
have like a
but it's
real
a good
strong.
enigma. Fuck.
It has a strong position, but it doesn't have a good relationship to any of the other music. Um, but it stands out, and it's a memorable cover too.
Yeah.
So I give it an A. I don't think it's. I would give it an A minus because I don't think it really is like the go-to Priest album, but it is like a strong like secondary album.
I love this album. I will give it an A
Or
though, as much as it is one of my favorites because of its sort of enigmaticness.
it's very electric. Yeah, very
Yeah,
electric. Yeah, if you want to give an A, you said an A. Can we
yeah,
do A?
A.
Okay, fine. Okay. Now we have to go to the next one, which I think
This is my favorite
from
album cover in the
1970.
catalog.
It's a great album cover. You're totally right. But
But
but I don't love it.
me
I don't
neither.
love it. I think it falls off from Sin After Sin. And honestly, there's a couple albums on the catalog that really great cover art. They're very enticing, and then you listen to them, you're like, they're kind of mid. They're kind of they kind of fail to launch. And this one's
Yeah.
like that for me.
I mean, it's
It's
good. I wouldn't call it bad, or even I wouldn't call the album mid. I think it's more mid for Priest. I think the songwriting here is good, but it just doesn't have. I feel like it kind of lacks the energy of something like Sin After Sin, but it also lacks the interesting quirks and bluesiness that Sad Wings had. There are really good songs on here. I love Beyond the Realms of Death. Exciter is an excellent opening. Um, Better by You, Better Than Me is a Spooky Tooth cover. I personally really like it. I know there is a very dark history to the Priest version. Um,
what is that history? I have no clue.
so there was a lawsuit that happened towards the end of the 1980s, after Ram It Down came out, where there were these two, I believe, teenagers who thought they heard a backtracked message in the song "Better by You, Better Than Me," the Priest version on Stained Class, and and they thought that it was trying to tell them to kill themselves. So they tried, and one of them succeeded, and the other one was facially deformed after surviving. And so then a lawsuit happened. Judas Priest were brought to court.
Who
Uh,
was facially disfigured?
there were these two teenagers. One of them was physically disfigured after attempting to
Weird.
kill himself after hearing a alleged backtrack message. There were no backtrack messages.
That's really dark,
They
man.
asked
That's really
Rob
dark.
Halford to sing this song in court, which is
That's hilarious.
it's
In the
something.
most fucking
This is a
metal.
very dark history to this song, which is I understand. I don't think they've played this song live since that whole thing,
It's actually they're
which
funny you say this. You talk about the lawsuit because apparently the metal band Death wrote a song based on the lawsuit because the lawsuit was that big of a phenomenon in metal new
I believe they
metal
did.
public.
I'm not really big on Death, the band, but I did hear about that. I'm not 100% sure, but I did hear about that. What was that?
Well, okay, so Beyond the Realms of Death, I think is one of the strongest songs on the album, but really I don't even like it that much. I think it's a little too Queeny for me. It reminds me of Queen, and it's kind of a little emotional in a way that's hard to believe. Like it's kind of all over the place and maudlin. Like I don't really take it seriously, you know. But it does have some impressive vocal shrieks, right?
Oh
Like the
yes,
shouting is quite nice to
Exciter
encounter.
is a vocal highlight from Rob Halford, I think.
I mean, Halford is an interesting singer because not only does he have an incredible range and dynamic ability, and also just like he's passionate. He just has so much energy. But beyond that, it's like he can sing kind of anything, and you really believe that he like for instance, Diamonds and Rust. Like he sings it very well for a song that's like really has nothing to do with him. You know what I mean? Like he's a gay man and he's singing a song about Joan Baez and Bob Dylan's relationship. It doesn't even make any sense at all. But when you hear it, you kind of believe it. So following up on that experience on this album, you get a lot of like unbelievable singing. But then it's the actual content of the songs is hard to really dive into to appreciate. I meant to say.
Yeah. I do want to give in a little bit of a tidbit before we get the tier ranking, but not actually that you did bring it up. Rob Halford, yes, he lives as a gay man, but before he came out, um, and even after he came out, he has stated openly that he never really informs his songwriting, the songwriting with that. However, on our last album, Sin After Sin, the song Raw Deal is the only one that actually touches on it lyrically, which involves a visit to Fire Island.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the
that's
one
pretty
and only
obvious.
time it's informed in song. It's a great
It's
song,
it's
uh,
pretty obvious. Yeah, it's funny that
but
some
it
of these
took me a
things they
while to
just sort of fly under
realize.
the radar. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure maybe back then that was less of a buzzword, you know. But I
Yeah,
think even then people knew, right? What Fire Island and stuff. So I don't know. But yeah, we can move on to the next album. What letter grade do you give it?
I'm gonna give Saint Class a B. I don't think it's better than Sad Wings or Sin After Sin. Um, but I do think it's at least it's worth it. It's worth your time, but not it's not one of my favorites, honestly. Um, it has its moments, but that's about it.
Sad Wings. Okay. Give it the whole album a B. You say?
Yeah, I think Saint Class is a B.
Yeah, I think like you're saying about the other song. I think Beyond the Realms of Death has a little of a homosexual undertone to it, or suggestibility, or whatever. Because it's like it's just very tender about this male character in the song, and it doesn't seem like something like a straight guy would really sing about. Um, he washed and dressed him. Like it's just not lyrics that like a straight guy would tend to write, I would think. So I think there is like another. I think you can find these sort of homosexual stuff. You know, like the what do you call it? Uh, homosexual. What I don't know what the word is. Like, you know, like uh, I don't know, like notes or whatever. Like uh, themes. You can see some
Themes.
homosexual themes. Yeah, in a lot of the albums, but it's only like one or two songs I think per album. The rest of it is just like pure metal, and it's in all its glory. So moving on, let's go. We gave this one a B.
The
Let's
B.
go to not in the same year they also released Killing Machine, which I think
This
has some really good material.
this one goes under two
Uh,
titles.
Actually, I would say this one is far better. This one might even be an S for me. It might even be an S. I'm crazy about delivering the goods. I really enjoy Hellbent for Leather. Not amazing, but I enjoy it a lot. And then the Green Man Unleash You with the two-pronged
Oh,
crown
such a great
is
cover.
so killer
It's
that
such
I
a
don't even understand how they figured it out. That's a legendary song, and the fact that it's a Fleetwood Mac cover is just hilarious.
yeah.
It just makes it even better.
To deliver the goods, I love deliver the goods. I love that album.
Yeah,
That opening so
yeah, I know,
much.
right? Killing
Oh, it's
Machine, dude.
so
Such a
forceful.
fun album.
This is probably. I'm not gonna say this is the most fun pre-sale because I have an easy answer for that, and it's not until a bit later. But this is one of the most fun for sure. And this one actually took a while to grow on me, admittedly, because at first I wasn't. When I first started getting into Priest a few years back, I wasn't entirely loving it, but as of like the more I listened to it, the more I loved it. There's so much here. Oh, Running Wild. I think. Wait, Running Wild. That is the name of the song, right? The opening riff is. I love the opening riff. I did notice that it has a lot of similarities to a more modern Iron Maiden song, The Wicker Man. They have basically the same riff. Very like very similar, but I think this is when like they finally started honing down like their modern like their 80s sound, I think. This is I feel like there's a level of confidence and forcefulness here that just hasn't really been seen yet. And
All right, and the next one.
what?
Sorry, I'm like I'm like I'm fucked up right now.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So wait, what song did you just say?
Running Wild. I went on a little bit of a tangent there.
Running Wild. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, yeah. I mean, I just think it's great that the Peter Green wrote the Green Manalishi. I mean, Peter Green of all people. I would not
Green.
expect him to write that song. But
A song about green.
well, yeah. I mean, I guess it's a little on the nose, but Manalishi, I didn't,
Ooh,
expect
the
that.
two proud crown. But there's so much I can. I love this album. It. I'm comfortable giving it. I'm definitely comfortable giving it an A. Like for sure. Even like a high A. Honestly, I don't know about S. There are a few. There are like maybe one or two songs I'm not crazy about that kind of hold it out, but pretty great, honestly. How about you? What do you think? Hello.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Sorry.
I'll give it an S. I think we should keep the show going a little more, a little, move it quickly,
Oh,
move it
okay. My
quicker
bad.
because.
Okay.
But I'll give it an S. Yeah.
Honestly, you know what? Fuck it. I'll move it up to S.
Great. Great.
Yeah,
All right.
Killing
Up
Machine.
next, they didn't make another album though until 1980, and I don't really blame them because
Yeah.
British Steel is another S album for me, easily. Has to be maybe my favorite. Um, Breaking the Law, Metal Gods, United, Living After Midnight. Man, it's just like, how do you make an album that good and not become like world, like a household name? Like how do you not become like how do you make this album and not like shoot flying colors all over the planet and the moon and just have everyone know who you are? Like the fact that they're not even known outside of the metal community is just like stupefying,
I
But
wouldn't entirely say that. I heard Judas Priest playing at CVS of all places. So, and
oh yeah,
it
yeah.
was
I mean,
breaking the law.
this
Funny
album,
enough.
Breaking the Law. Yeah, that would do it. Yeah, yeah. And great
Yeah.
music video. Yeah, this is like the perfect metal album in a way. I think you could obviously improve it if you when you think about it a lot, but it's the perfect album in a way,
I
and it's definitely like a desert island album for me.
I actually
If I could
think
have a few, I
I
might
think
pick this
it's
one.
I think it's interesting that this album is so much more well known than Killing Machine because really there isn't much musical progression, which that no problem with that as long as you don't keep doing it over and over and over again. ACDC, um, uh, but it kind of does feel like Killing Machine Part Two in a lot of ways. It's going through the same sort of stripping away the progressive ish element or 70s elements and just going full on rough and ready, more akin to Sin After Sin and killing, especially Killing Machine. Um, there are some excellent songs on here. I think Killing Machine's a little better, but British Steel is awesome. Uh, I never was the biggest fan of United or even Living After Midnight, but I think every other song on this album is a banger. The Rage, Breaking the Law, Rapid Fire. I don't really need to say too much about this album. I don't think any much more. What do you think? S, A, I think high A for me also. But what about you?
For British Steel,
Yeah,
the
British Steel.
iconic,
I will go.
foundational
I'm going
album,
like
I would
super
say
high.
I would say S. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
Ah,
high,
fuck it. I'll move it to
but S.
S. I don't. I will.
Metal Gods is my favorite on this. I'll say that one. That one is like an anthem, and it's just a power. It's just a powerful album. It's really kind of uplifting. Like
It's I
I
think
think it's
more
their
anthemic than
most.
Killing Machine. I
It's
want to say
yeah, yeah, definitely more anthemic than Killing Machine. Also, it's the most uplifting album by far. It
definitely.
looks a little emo,
Ooh,
right, with the album cover, but it's
yeah.
actually a very as we know, it's a really
It does tap a little bit
gritty
into that sort
song
of
bass.
punkish look.
It's a larger than life. It's a larger than life album, and it's
Yeah.
honest. Again, it's like one of those that it's a treasure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I think
yeah.
this album is a bigger achievement as like probably one of Judas Priest's biggest and proudest achievements. I cannot lie, I think I slightly prefer Killing Machine by like a hair. But I still love this fucking album. I think it's one of Priest's best. But yeah. What do we got next? Point of entry.
We got Point of Entry up next,
Uh, Point of
which
entry.
I think this album is kind of like I
Mm,
don't know, it's a little dumb.
mm.
Um, Heading Out to the Highway is probably the standout track, and I don't even like that song too much.
I love Desert
I
Plains.
think yeah. Fuck, I don't even know if
It's a great
I
driving
remember.
song.
Fuck, I
From
have to
desert
revisit that one.
plains, I'll bring you love. I remember, like, it's just like a steady sort of pace it's
Okay, let
going
me
at.
listen to that real quick.
It's a great
Let me
driving
listen to that real
song.
quick. I need to jog my memory. I thought that one was
Everything else was sound I
uh,
couldn't give a shit. I couldn't get and that and heading to the highway and maybe Solar Angels are good. Everything else I could give less of a shit about.
Oh yeah, this is definitely like a fun driving song. You don't want to do anything, but it's not that like it's not a super um you know it doesn't
I
have a lot of face to it. It's not like a very personable song, but
it's not their
Desert
best,
Plains
but I think it's the best
have a
on the album.
background. It's a good background song for driving.
I
Yeah,
think Heading to the
long haul.
Highway is good, but it has a bit of like a Dancing in the Ruins versus Burning for You kind of problem where it's trying too hard to be an earlier hit, being Living After Midnight. But it's still good. It's still a good opening. It's just the rest of the album, it just doesn't do it for me. Some of their worst material is on here too. In fact, I think this album might be a little worse than Rockarola, even with the good songs. What do you think? Where do you think it should go?
I think this album's like a B, maybe a C even. I'm
I'm
just
thinking a
not
C.
crazy about.
I think a
Yes,
C.
okay.
I'm just not crazy. I'm really not feeling this one. I'm not gonna lie. Don't worry though. There's good stuff on the way.
There's some good stuff on the way. 1982. I think this next album could be an S. Screaming for Vengeance.
If
It's
British
probably the
Steel was their breakthrough, then was their breakthrough into being like a known household name in the UK, then Screaming for Vengeance was their worldwide coming out party.
yeah. I would
Like this
say I would.
shot them into the stratosphere. This is probably their most popular album. Like British Steel is like right behind it, but like this, like in terms of pure popularity, probably their most popular. But how is it as an album?
Well, the Helion, Electric Eye, really like classic and driven. You got Another Thing Coming, Scream for Vengeance. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's got a good the album itself has a good rhythm.
Yeah,
It's a good sequence.
it's got a
But
bit
I
more
just
of
feel
like
like
a metal edge.
I
I
don't like
think.
it. I don't like it as much as British Steel. I will say that I think it is markedly worse, but it's still very impressive and bombastic and sort of megalomaniacal and cool.
I think
So
yeah,
I'll
there's a
yeah,
lot of cool things about it. I think there's the production is very slick, but in a good way. It sounds
very slick. Yeah, and then just look
yeah.
at that album cover. I
That
mean,
album
Doug
cover is
Johnson.
so sick. It's so cool. This is one of my
It's like
backgrounds on my computer.
who wouldn't want to own that? Like who wouldn't want that in their house, right?
I would want that on my
So
wall. I want
But
that as
that's what I'm
my
saying. Like it's so decorative. Anyway, so
oh
but yeah,
Bloodstone. I would like some.
it's
That song is
it
sick
just
too. Bloodstone. It's got
it
like
just
this really sick guitar work from Tipton and Downing on it. What do you
all
think?
right. So I give it an A plus. I don't know if I'd give it an S, but I give it like an A.
I think I'm gonna give it. I have been
Somewhere.
just basically just been so fucking happy about this album, but I will admit I do think it kind of falls off in the second half a little bit. Besides, you got another thing coming. I think a low A is fair for this. A mid to low A, just a standard A. A standard A, I think is fair for this. I don't think it's as good as Killing Machine or British Steel, but I also don't think it's not great because it's great.
All right. Well, I'm ready to move on, man. We gotta keep the
Yeah.
ball rolling here. It's a very
Defenders.
charming album, but I don't like return to it as much as I do British Steel. And again, it is kind of overselling itself a little with that killer album cover.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the fun thing about it is that it was recorded in Ibiza and Orlando, Florida. So it's got this sort of
I'm living there right now.
beachy, tropical. Oh yeah, you're
I'm
literally
in Orlando,
where it was
Florida right
recorded.
now.
Literally exactly the recording studio itself. No, but you were in the vicinity, yes.
Yeah.
Um, that's pretty good. Okay, Defenders of the Faith up
Ooh.
next.
Oh. Fuck, this is my favorite album. One of my favorite albums. Oh, I almost said my favorite. I forgot about one. But this is probably my second favorite out of the entire catalog. Uh, Everything about Screaming for Vengeance, but heavier, basically. The production's not as good, I will say that. But everything else, I think the songwriting is punchier. I think the guitars sound punchier. Rob Halford's voice is like Jesus Christ. This
You're talking
talking about
wait,
Defenders,
what are you referring to? Because what album are you on?
Defenders of the Faith, the
Yeah,
next
I
one.
think this one is again, I think it's a little like Love Bites, it's kind of fun. The Sentinel's cool. Uh, but I'm not like overall infatuated by this record. I think the album artwork is probably even like a little more intriguing than the one before, if not as aggressively
It's a bit
interesting.
more comic-y, I think, the cover.
A little more comic-y, a little more funny. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
not
They're
my
kind of trying to
favorite
like they're kind of
cover.
leaning in. They're kind of leaning into old habits a little too much. But this album, uh,
I fucking love it. I think it's at least better than Screaming, even if it's still not my favorite. It's up there. It's like really up there for me. My second or third favorite. I flip flop a little bit, but it's up there. Where would you put it?
uh, I would say it's like a B, honestly.
Can we?
Defenders of the Faith has a lot 1984 Columbia Records, platinum. Some heads are gonna roll. I mean, it's got less charm than its predecessors. It's got a lot of the same, uh, but that's sort of normal. I would say a respectable maybe B plus, possibly an A minus, because it does have like I really like the Sentinel.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's as good as Screaming, and I really don't think it's as good as British Steel.
I don't know if it's kind of neck and neck with British Steel for me. I think it's
You
better
look
than
at that
Screaming,
much.
but
Wow.
I love this album. The only thing that I think is wrong with it is the closing track, "Defenders of the Faith," is a little weird. It's supposed to be very anthemic, but the way it comes off is sort of like United Light. and I'm already. It's a little like WWE something about it, but I think we could compromise it with some kind of A. You know,
Okay, yeah, let's do yeah, let's do an A. I'll do an A minus. I mean, I still think a B plus, but if I listen to it more, I'd probably appreciate it more because it is a heavyweight album. So, let's do A minus and keep the ball rolling.
I Turbo,
Okay, up next, Turbo.
an experiment.
Okay, this one is also. I think this one is. I used to think this one kind of wasn't good, but now I'm convinced that it's might even be better than Defenders of the Faith.
It's a great
Um,
driving album.
yeah, Parental Guidance is pretty funny. Turbo Lover is really good for driving. I think better than anything on the last two.
Reckless was
So
supposed to be in Top Gun.
I really want to give Defenders of the Faith a B, and I want to give this one an A, a low A. But that's just me. You can put it wherever you want.
I think Turbo's a low A. I'm basically in the same boat as you. I think Turbo's a really fun, kind of silly, but fun album. Very extremely slick. They did a lot of guitar synthesizer stuff, like what Iron Maiden did with Somewhere in Time, but whereas that still kept the heaviness, this is very much a synth rock album. But it's awesome for that. It's not my favorite, but it's fun.
It's a little dancey. Yeah,
It's
it's
silly,
a little
but it's fun.
yeah, fun. But that's
Very
what's
tongue in
key.
cheek. That's
And
the
what
charm.
it's not really the most. It's not the best received album. But maybe I'm just I'm a little older. I don't really give a shit as much. I think it's okay. I think it might be an A
I think
or
so too.
whatever. All right. Anyway, up next
Ram
is
it down.
Ram It Down.
Funny album cover. I don't know why.
Okay, yeah, this one's okay. What I remember, I'm not. I think we could go real quick with this one. I think this one's a C.
I think this one's kind of a mess. There are some great songs on here. Blood Red Skies, in particular, is oh my god! It's such a powerful song. That song is what Beyond the Realms of Death, I think, was trying to get at. It has a sort of dark, sort of last stand energy to it. For that song, I love it. Everything else in this album, it's fine. I think a low B overall, despite Blood Red Skies. Like Blood Red Skies is in my top 5 Judas Priest songs, straight up, but everything else I could kind of just do without. So I really don't know. I'm torn. B or C? High C, low B.
I do C. I'm not infatuated by it. Blood. You like Blood? How good is Blood Red Skies as a track?
I love it's top 5 ever Judas Priest for me. Everything else on the album, it's kind of like if you take Turbo and mix it with a bit like if you take like the Turbo synthiness and mix it a little bit with Beyond the Realms of Death. It has this sort of it's very I'm kind of surprised it wasn't used on a movie soundtrack at this point. I don't think it's ever been in a movie. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this album. It's just a little sloppy. Besides that, kind of feels like seconds.
All right, let's move on.
All
Yeah,
right,
let's
okay, Painkiller,
Painkiller,
Painkiller.
1990.
So I keep hinting at like saying all these albums. I love a bunch of these different albums and stuff like that. This is, I think, my uncontested favorite in the discography. This is my
It's not
uncontested.
bad. Really, really, it's not bad. I don't consider it a favorite, but I like it. Um, I'd probably give it if it were up to just me. I'd probably give it B or an A minus.
Really?
Um, yeah, because it has good material, but it's just not. It doesn't. I don't like. It doesn't scintillate with me. Like I don't feel like connected to it. I just like. I respect the musicianship, but it doesn't have like a story that it appeals to me.
I think this is the album where this is the first Priest. It was one of the first albums that I listened to and thought just instantly, holy shit. It does not let go of your throat like the entire way through. It is a much more intense album than anything before this. It is not their most intense overall. I think that the next album is, as in terms of intensity. But yeah, this is yeah, I love this album. I love this album to death. I love everything about this album. I think I think fuck, I don't know. On one hand I really wanna I know we gotta compromise and I know we gotta keep things rolling. I would personally give it an S if it were entirely up to me.
Okay.
And
Uh,
I know we differ a lot of this on this one. But I love every single solitary second of this album.
yeah. No, it's quite. Okay. Well, I don't. If you get, I'll get. Let's go with A, and then I'll promise to re-listen to some of these tracks.
This is with a
But
slight
we
disclaimer
have to
that
keep it going. Yeah, because we have a few more to do, and
yeah.
a touch of evil intrigues me. I'll have to give that a real solid listen.
Oh, that one has
So
Don
yeah.
Airy on keyboards from he's currently part of Deep Purple.
Okay.
Next we
We're gonna do
got
up next. We'll
Rob
do
Halford's Gone.
war. Oh, right. Okay. So
Enter
what a small dead. What is it? What's the next one?
Jugulator. Oh, you're thinking of Fight. I heard you say Small Deadly.
Yeah, I got mixed up. That one
Yeah.
I'm not as invested in.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
not as much into
Jugulator.
Fight. Jugulator with Tim Ripper Owens as the vocalist. He was part of a cover band called I forgot exactly what the cover band was called actually. I think it was called British Steel, actually. Um, and the the band heard a performance of him singing The Ripper live, and they thought it was an impersonator like Rob Halford or something. So they asked him to fly in and and perform The Ripper for them. And on basically the first high note, he was hired. Which is funny because this album is very different from past Judas Priest albums. It's a lot more of like basically like if you take Painkiller and make it darker, make it a lot more sort of intense and chunky, very menacing album. I really like it a lot. It is not my favorite, but I do think it is very underrated. Probably the most underrated Priest album. But again, not my favorite.
Yeah. Um. I couldn't really appreciate this one. I would say this one's like a D.
I think you want to can we
I
compromise them a little bit in
I
the middle?
don't like what?
Can we put you? Is there somewhere we could put this in the middle? I think
We can just see. I mean, I'm sure it's got some redeeming aspects. I was never into it. I like the name.
I could bring it down
You
to
know,
like I'd be willing to bring it down to like a low B because there
I just
are
don't. I don't feel
things.
like
It's not perfect.
I can't. I don't think everything's a B. You know, some of these things are C albums, but yeah, B.
Oh, I'm gonna get a little bit of a spoiler for the next album. I'll give you a D right away for the next one, but this. Ugh. Yeah, this is a bit of a different era for Priest, and uh, I at least think this is more consistent with the sound they were going with in Painkiller, unlike the next album. What's next again? Demolition, right?
Um, Demolition. Yeah, yeah. Let's say next is Demolition. Yeah, several years after too. There's
Yeah.
a large gap. Like there was what, uh, Painkiller 1990, Jugulator 1997, and then 2001 Demolition. And it's the final one and the second one with Tim Ripper Owens. Well, I'm not a fan of Tim Ripper Owens. I don't get his popularity. I don't understand like the crowd appeal that he seems to garner at shows all the time. It's freaking annoying, and I all the freaking time, and I'm just like a little over the whole Tim Ripper Owens phenom. Anyway,
I'm not the
as
biggest fan of
far
him
as
now. I think I think his voice hasn't aged the great. He can scream really well, but I think he had more personality when he
right,
was
he
younger
can scream
in
really
his
well,
voice.
right?
Now he
Yeah,
just sort of comes off as another screamer.
that doesn't surprise me. Okay, well, so at any rate, I mean, um, I don't think this album was good. I would give it an F.
What, Demolition?
Yeah, I'll give it an F.
I fully agree with you. I could not agree with you more. Whereas Jugulator, I feel like it's just like, well, Jugulator, I feel like it did have some issues, but I generally think it's a solid follow up to Painkiller. It's heavy and menacing, and it's got some great songs like Cathedral Spires. If you're gonna listen
Like if
to,
someone, it's just like yeah,
but
you're right. Like
Demolition, Demolition's got
Jugulator has like
nothing.
validity. It has like validity, whereas this one
Yeah,
is like sort of desperate.
this one
And like
has
if someone
nothing.
recommended, hey, do you want to listen to the last Tim Reaper Owens album from Judas Priest, from 2001, I'd be like, fuck off. Like no,
He
it's
starts
not.
rapping on Metal
Yeah.
Messiah. There's a lyric on the song Cyberface where he just says, "Beware his megabyte." This album
Angel
is
of
so
Retribution.
fucking bad. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Next. Ugh. Angel of Retribution. Rob Halford's back.
Angel of Retribution is the 15th studio album. I think this one's kind of good. I was digging it.
I think it's pretty good.
Uh, I would give it a higher grade than the other that we just ran through. I would give this one maybe a B even, like
I
because
think it'd
it
be.
has
I agree.
some respectable qualities that aren't entirely um, uh, embarrassing or off note or out of pocket, as it were. Like is a fairly cohesive, driven, sort of charming and dynamic electric. It's got all that Judas Priest sound going for it, and it has a lot more energy and punch than several of their albums prior, even back going to Turbo or and
Ram it down.
Painkiller. So I think this one is a real tour de force for for the time for the year it was released at least, and I would actually listen to this album. And then up next,
I like this
in
album. I
unless
just think it blurs together a little, but I agree with the B. I agree
it
with the B.
blurs, it does blur, but it's got a really good sound, and
Yeah,
it kind of it represents like the Judas Priest can keep it going, I think.
but
And it's
granted, after
really it is a
Demolition,
comeback album for Alfred, which is always nice.
yeah, I mean, he had
Um,
the Resurrection solo album is great, although I will recommend that as a
okay,
side
so
thing.
up next
Uh oh,
is not so we're going from
Nostradamus.
2005 to 2008. Angel of Retribution, by the way, I don't think we even named that one. The one we
Oh, we
just
did.
mentioned was Angel of Retribution. Okay, up
Yeah,
next is Nostradamus.
Nostradamus.
This one is
Uh, too much.
uh
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one's kind of eccentric, but it's not. It's fun. Uh,
I
I could give it a
ooh,
C or a B.
I think
Maybe
this one's
maybe a
too long.
D.
This one's the thing about concept albums is that they have to do the best concept albums hold your attention and are good at telling the
It is
story
kind of
without
lame. There's
compromising
something
the
sort of
music.
lame about it.
It's
Lame and desperate. I would maybe a D for
I
me.
think a D also. I can't I tried really hard to get into this one. I just couldn't. That length really is really punishing. It's an hour and 40 minutes, which is a good movie length, but it just seems very unnecessary when it comes to how they tell this story. Like the life of Nostradamus. It's interesting. Interesting concept. I just they don't sell. They don't sell me. It's a shame because this was KK Downing's last album with Priest, at least.
All right. Anyway, um,
Redeemer of Souls.
a Redeemer of Souls. The Redeemer of Souls. I didn't get into this. I actually missed this one completely. Or if I saw it, if I listened to anything, I wasn't immediately impressed. But I don't even know if I did.
There's
It's
some.
got some actually. It's got some weird like the album cover is kind of unusual and striking.
It looks a bit more like
And
like
KK
visually
Downing,
like a power metal album.
it looks like kind of a new metal or a power metal album, or it's just sort of cheesy seeming. And it's the Sword of Damocles, Dragonaut, Redeemer of Souls, March of the Damned. I mean, the names are kind of nice, like
Secrets of the
kind of
Dead.
exciting
I
names. But I don't think I've listened to it. What do you think? Because since you listened to this, what do you think of the whole album?
honestly, I really this album at first it's sort of like backwards Angel Retribution for me. Like that one I loved when I first listened to it, but over time it just started kind of blending together. It just sort of Redeemer of Souls I couldn't get into at first, but with time I've grown to love it. It is not the best. There is the production on this album sounds very weird. I don't really know. There's no word I could really describe it. It's a weird sounding album with like the sound mixing, but in terms of
Yeah.
musicianship, like this, there's some really fucking good stuff on here. Crossfire as a sort of 70s ishness, so like something about 70, like a little bit like 70s Priest ishness to it. This is a very varied album, and but in a way that feels consistent. I would give it like a low, like lowest A or highest B, personally. I think highest B, just because it did take me a while to get into it.
Okay.
And then Firepower. The Last Until March. As of the time of recording this, Judas Priest has announced a new album called Invincible Shield that is releasing in March 2024. But for now, Firepower is their newest.
Okay. Like, and actually, it might even be like decent. So yeah, let's. I would give this one maybe a C or a B.
I think this one's a B. I
Yeah.
not sure. I don't think it's as good as Redeemer of Souls. I think this one is a little bit. This one's definitely a bit more modern, like a bit more of like a modern speed metal album. I want to say, but it's also a bit more. This is probably the most like screaming for vengeance in terms of sound, like since then. Um, Or like Scream for Vengeance and Painkiller had a baby, and it sounds awesome, but I don't think it's quite as good. It sounds a little bit too much like. Actually, it almost kind of sounds like what Saxon had already been doing with their albums. It's weird. It's weird. It's a good album, but not my favorite. I think a
Yeah,
B.
I mean, it's not a favorite, but it shows you that they can still rock in like, 40 years in, 50 years in or whatever. It's not something I'd recommend to anyone, but it's also not it's I'd only recommend this to someone who liked Priest and didn't know that they had good material in later years.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would. That's a good place to recommend that. I think.
Okay, up next is their latest one, which is basically
Wait,
forthcoming. It's the 19th studio album by English uh, heavy metal band. Whatever. Epic Records. I think they had one track though that they
oh,
released as a single.
Invincible Shield.
Trial by Fire. Yeah, and
Yep,
so
let's
far
bring up
that
Invincible Shield.
released on September, November 2023. So far, that's been quite enjoyable. I
Yeah.
think it's a good release, and it shows you that they still have gas in the tank. Um, yeah. So I don't know. We can't really review this album, but I would say I'm optimistic about it.
One single actually came out this morning, um,
Really?
called "Trial by Fire." I did not listen to it yet, but
I don't think that was this morning. I think that was technically the 17th. But yeah, because I
no, that
saw a
was
couple
another
videos.
song. Is I forgot.
No,
I
because I saw
forget.
Trial of Fire not today. It was maybe yesterday.
I think they were posting like, oh, it was yeah, probably yesterday for you, because time
Oh,
zone.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who
it was
knows?
this
Yeah.
morning for me. It was
But 12. It was 12 days ago on YouTube, so it was the 17th,
no, I mean there's another
around or
song that
before,
premiered like today, ish. I haven't listened to it. I
after.
haven't caught around to it yet though. But yeah, we can't really talk about Invincible Shield too much since we only have a minuscule amount of music for it or content. We have two tracks and an album cover.
Well, at any rate, man, it looks like a fun album. The album cover
It
is a little
does.
different than what I've seen before. I hope this isn't their last album. It doesn't really look like it would be. And they do have some health. I mean, KK Downing is obviously no longer in the band,
He's got his
and
own thing.
they kind of don't have a lot that Glenn Tipton can really do anymore. So he's sort of carted around, but he's not really at his full strength because of
Yeah.
Parkinson's, which is very tragic.
No, he does perform on this
It's
album. He does perform
an
on this album.
altogether regrettable disease, right?
Yeah. It did stop him from touring, I know. This is sort of like a Paul Quinn thing with Saxon, where he had to retire from touring and was replaced in live shows by the guitar by I think
It's happening it's
Brian
happening
Tatler of
all
Diamond
the
Head.
time. It's happening literally with metal. This is left and right.
Yeah,
These guys age out of their ability to be machines on the stage. I mean glorious raging machines on the stage. Anyway, so
that's Priest.
how are we doing for time? Because I want to be conscientious of
Sur-
that. I think this is
Surprisingly, this has been like an hour basically.
well. I think we had a lot to say. I mean, we did. I think an hour is probably better than
We
two.
pace.
I think two. We've been doing all these 2 hour long ones, and it's like there's only so much information I can really muster out of and
Yeah,
like I mean, it's some of these albums are just not worth talking about. I mean, yeah, you could, but
demolition.
like, why bother? It's like, anyway, maybe, and I want to do more of these episodes too. Like, I don't want to just do one every month or every 2 months or every 3 months. I want to do one
Yeah.
like I want to do the UFO one very quickly, maybe before in December, and maybe do two by the time the year's by Christmas. Do two by Christmas.
Oh yeah. That's
Um,
a good goal to get to. The only thing that's sort of holding me back a little bit with timing is just because of, I have yeah, my scheduling is with my internship here is a little hectic. I can't find
Oh,
out
I
my
didn't blame you,
schedule until
man.
the Sunday
No, there's
before.
nothing, there's no, yeah, you can have any excuse in the world because I have a lot of issues with scheduling too, and it's like, I mean, it's hard to listen to all these albums too. It's not like this isn't necessarily the easiest project. Um,
Yeah.
but
Maybe we
I
could
think we're
do a different in between you because I'm still listening to UFO also. Like I'm not as familiar with them as I am with Priest or Maiden or Saxon.
UFO, isn't it cool? That's the next one up, by the way,
Yeah,
if you're
that's the
listening.
next one, UFO.
Yeah, so
Or
UFO,
maybe we could do something in between that we're both familiar with. That could like a shorter episode or something not based on music in between, and then we could do UFO.
yeah, UFO, and then we did have that Halloween idea where we do like, a few goofy bands like White
Misfits
Zombie and Misfits. Like, maybe we could still do that
and the
just to
Friday the
say
13th movies.
and that one would be good. I don't know if I have like the Steam yet to like watch all of those because it's just like it's a lot of like but like maybe we could do a different horror series that's more approachable and less like B movie quality.
Yeah, like what? Would you consider Elm Street B-ish? B movie quality? Because I think it kind of transcends it a little bit. It is a very high concept too. But yeah, I don't know. Regardless, though, I mean, I had fun ranking these. I had fun listening to
Oh, sorry,
them.
man. Yeah, I'm a little tapped out right now.
That's all right.
Yeah, dude, this was good. I'm really glad we got to tie these albums together and make sort of find the through lines for all of them. And it's amazing the material that Priest has put out. I have the greatest hits album, and it's like I listen to it in my car,
Yeah,
because
I have
I
the
only play
greatest hits album
CDs.
on CD at home.
Yeah, exactly. I have it in my car on CD because I can only put CDs, like six of them in the car, and it's like, wow, like I just listened to Green Man Alishi. I listened to Delivering the Goods. I listened to
Deliver the
Metal Gods.
goods.
Those three I listen to all the time, and I'm like, geez, this band's such a powerhouse. It really is like lightning in the bottle. So with
Yeah.
that being said, let's sign off for now. And if you're out there listening in the lonely night, good night and good luck.
Yep. Good night. Good luck, and
And thanks to you, Michael, man, you really helped out with this podcast.
thank you so much for
Be all the
inviting me and
priest that
allowing me to do this.
exactly. Be all the priest that you can be.
Yeah. Be like Judas Priest. Be as priest as you
Don't
could
be a
be.
Jesus priest. Be a Judas priest.
Be a
So,
Judith.
did you stop?
Yeah, I'm
Wait,
stopping
when
in